Welcome back to Cinema Bucket List, the show where we work our way through the 1001 movies you must see before you die, a growing list of 1,245 must-watch films for all cinephiles. As always, I am Mike, returning with 10 more films from the list. Despite his notorious on-set behavior, Marlon Brando is one of the best actors to have ever lived. This 1954 crime thriller follows an ex-prizefighter as he stands up to his mob-like union boss. Starting as a dim-witted minion for the boss, we follow Brando's character as he begins to understand the gravity of the situation and starts to think for himself. With intense sequences, incredible performances, and a hell of a lot of grit, this film keeps me on the edge of my seat each time I watch it. And when the great Lee J. Cobb's character, Johnny Friendly, falls into the water, you can't help but cheer with all of the dock workers. It stays on the list.
Really want to finish him?
What do you think?
For what he did to Charlie and a dozen other men who are better than Charlie? Then don't fight him like a hoodlum down here in the jungle, because that's just what he wants. He'll hit you in the head and plead self-defense.
Horror comedies are among the most overlooked genres of film. I would say even more so than straight horror films. This film was shot in 2009 and finished later that year, and the release was delayed nearly 2 years for one reason or another until April of 2012, conveniently after one of its stars found success with Marvel. But I'm sure that had nothing to do with it. A satire on slasher films, Cabin in the Woods is an extremely meta film. But that's what makes it great. It is self-aware enough to point out the flaws in its own logic and turns it into a joke. It's hilarious with extremely memorable performances, most notably Richard Jenkins and Bradley Whitford, and at times it is legitimately scary. This stays on the list.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
He had the conch in his
hands. In a couple more minutes, who knows what might have happened.
I am never gonna see a merman. Ever.
Dude, be thankful. Those things are terrifying. The cleanup on them is a nightmare.
If you're gonna write a film where the protagonist is an asshole, at least make him likable. Main characters don't need to be good people, but the audience has to be given reason to care. In this, it seems director Bob Rafelson thought playing piano and being played by Jack Nicholson was enough to get us on board. But Nicholson's character is annoyingly testy and emotionally abusive to boot. And we're expected to care about his feelings because his family is judgmental? Am I missing something? Sure, there are good performances and this film is almost saved in the final 10 minutes, but it's just dull. A dull movie with boring, mean characters. I'd remove it and replace it with The Peanut Butter Falcon. Like Five Easy Pieces, Peanut Butter Falcon is a road trip movie, but follows a man with Down syndrome as he tries to go to his favorite wrestler's wrestling school. It's extremely fun and full of heart.
Nothing, it's just, I picked the easiest piece that I could think of, and I first played it when I was 8 years old, and I played it better then.
Can't you understand it was the feeling I was affected by?
I didn't have any.
This isn't my first foray into Bollywood films, but I would consider it the most stereotypical film to come from the country that produces the most films annually. While I've liked every single Bollywood film I have seen, I do believe they all struggle from the same issues, those being length and pacing. They are often overstuffed with unnecessary musical numbers and overly drawn-out dramatic glances. But that's the style. To exclude them would be like asking Tarantino to not show any feet in his films, but I digress. Starring legendary Bollywood actors Shah Rukh Khan, Kajol, Amrish Puri, Farida Jalal, and Anupam Kher, I apologize if I mispronounced any of those, this is a fun and adventurous film about modern love clashing with traditional arranged marriages in India. It's beautiful, funny, and full of life, and is the best example of what to expect from most Bollywood films. But is ultimately held back by those two pesky issues, time and pacing. I can't stress enough that I legitimately liked this movie, but it started losing me toward the end. I'd replace it with a less traditional Bollywood film called The Lunchbox, starring Irfan Khan and Nimrat Kaur. Again, apologize if I mispronounced those. It's an equally beautiful love story that includes the theme of tradition, but it's 85 minutes shorter and doesn't contain any jarring musical numbers. Regardless, Bollywood movies are fun and you should start checking them out if you don't already.
हमें यहाँ से भागना ही होगा।
नहीं सिमरन, मैं तुम्हें यहाँ से भगाकर या चुरा कर ले जाने नहीं आया हूँ। भले ही मेरी पैदाइश इंग्लैंड में हुई हो, पर हूँ मैं हिंदुस्तानी। मैं यहाँ तुम्हें अपनी दुल्हन बनाने के लिए आया हूँ।
In this documentary, director Marcel Ophuls explores the Nazi occupation of France during World War II by interviewing people from all walks of life: rich, poor, Jewish, communist, politicians, resistance fighters, and even former Nazis. We are presented with an in-depth look into the difficult era for all French people. While the documentary itself is not technically impressive, the interviews held and the stories told are captivating enough to keep you intrigued for most of the 4-hour and 11-minute runtime. Which brings us to the biggest problem: the runtime. While each story is important for the overall history, I feel it is only a detriment to the film overall. But is that enough to remove it from the list? After thinking long and hard about it, I can't think of a more worthy yet similar replacement, so it stays on.
Que des gamins se cachaient dans les bois pour pas aller avec les Allemands, pour pas aller travailler là-bas, qui étaient patriotes 100%, qui se sont pétués sur toutes les routes de France. Je considère qu'à ce moment, s'ils avaient été encadrés par des officiers français qui se chopaient les doigts de pied pendant que la République payait.
It is common practice nowadays for directors to cast non-actors in their films for the sake of grittiness and authenticity. While I'm sure this isn't the first film to do so, it was definitely more unheard of at the time when Jacques Becker cast John Karate in a movie based on a real prison escape that he took part in. This film does an impeccable job at building suspense as well as getting the audience on the side of the prisoners as quickly as possible. My favorite part of the film is that it shows you each step of the escape, even so far as to give somewhat of a tour of the underground layout of the prison. Each step of the plan seems rock solid, and the viewer's anticipation grows with the characters. And it never tries to cover the quieter moments with flash montage sequences that you would see today. It stays on the list.
Eh, monseigneur, tu as peine de gaieté, tu sais.
T'es fou, pourquoi?
Si ça venait maintenant, de toute manière, on serait marrant.
Ça va pas, non?
I saw a review for this film on Letterboxd that stated that this is the ultimate dad movie. And honestly, I can't think of a better description than that. The bank dig is filled with wordplay and self-deprecation that only a dad could love. And the running gag that Egbert Sousse's family doesn't love him until he makes them rich most likely strikes a chord with many fathers out there. Admittedly, this film has a slow start, but once it gets going, it's extremely goofy. I mean, he attacks a kid for crying out loud. It's so incredibly stupid, but knows just what it is. I had a lot of fun with this, and it stays on the list.
But you're both madly in love with each other. Embrace. Is she standing in a hole?
No, sir.
Well, all right. Go ahead, reach your arm.
This movie is the perfect example of the kind of movies I dislike from the so-called golden era of Hollywood. It's more of a stage musical than it is a film, and I like musicals, but in my opinion, the 40s and 50s were the worst time for them. This film has a few solid moments, but it is corny as hell and the entire plot could be avoided if people would just communicate. The amount of times someone tries to say something only to be interrupted is laughable. And maybe it's my cynical nature, but love at first sight movies make me roll my eyes. It's just not my cup of tea. I'd remove this and replace it with The Court Jester starring the criminally underrated Danny Kaye. It's a bit of a parody on Robin Hood, but has witty and memorable dialogue and laughably outrageous fight sequences. Not enough people have seen this film in my opinion, so you should check it out.
You haven't seen another sailor hanging around here, have you?
Oh, no, we haven't seen anyone hanging around here.
The first Charlie Chaplin film we've come across, The Gold Rush, features several iconic Chaplin moments, including the dinner roll dance scene. Like most Chaplin films, this too has a ton of heart, going so far as to have a downright heartbreaking scene at about the halfway point of the film. While it's not my favorite Chaplin film, the Tramp is such an iconic figure that, in my opinion, everyone should strive to see as many films featuring the bowler hat wearing, cane yielding nomad as possible. The Gold Rush stays on the list. I have to get something off my chest. I do not care for anime. I really want to get into it and love it like everyone else, but every time I try, my opinion of it is more and more solidified. I acknowledge that the art is wonderful and almost all of the stories are fantastic, but I can't stand the 12 frames per second animation. And every anime I have seen has pacing issues. But that's just me. I absolutely understand why it has such a strong following. Akira is the closest I have come to liking an anime. It has great world building, interesting action sequences, and beautiful artwork, as is the norm with anime, but the pacing and low frame animations still get to me. However, I can't remove an entire genre of films just because I don't like the style. That would defeat the purpose of this list. While I can't promise that all anime will be safe, Akira is strong enough to stay on the list. And that does it for episode 7 of Cinema Bucket List. My favorite film from this episode was The Hole. Have you started working your way through the list? How many have you seen? What did you think of the films featured in this video, and what was your favorite? Comment down below to share your thoughts, and if you feel so inclined, feel free to like and subscribe. As always, I am Mike, and I will be back next month with at least 10 more films for the 1001 movies you must see before you die. See you then.